Truth wears no mask, seeks neither place nor applause, bows to no human shrine. She only asks a hearing. A very pleasant good day to you wherever you may be, and welcome to the University of Common Sense. My name is Tim Morrow, and our subject is the kidneys. Now, the reason why we chose the kidneys is because of the dialysis machine. The dialysis machine is the monster machine today. It is the machine that destroys life, the quality of life, like nothing else has ever done. And I'm sure that those who may be listening and seeing me on television right now agrees with me that are on that machine. The machine is a murderer. But before it kills you, it destroys everything in you. Now, I deal on a regular basis with people who are on the dialysis machine. And what they're told is once you get on the dialysis machine, you can never come off of it. So they believe that they're on there forever. But let's take a look at that machine. Let's take a look at that machine. I don't have any idea as to what that machine weighs, but let me tell you about your kidney. Your kidney is about 4 inches and weighs about 4 ounces. It's a little miracle machine for you. It takes 18 quarts of water, and every hour it turns it into about a pint and a half. That's about how much we urinate, and about each hour. In the meantime, it is filtering your blood. It is the second place that your blood is filtered. The first place being the liver, second place is the kidney, third place is the heart. But it is filtering your blood at that same time. Remember I said it's 4 inches and 4 ounces? In each kidney, there is 75 miles of tubing. We're talking about 150 miles of tubing in the combination of both kidneys. The kidneys sit at the back, one a little higher than the other, but they sit in the back and the lower back and can produce kidney stones, which are very easy to get rid of without surgery. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. But right now we want to talk about the kidneys itself and what happens. This is the scenario that goes on when a guy goes into the doctor's office, Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith goes into the doctor's office, and they go, "Doctor, I have this edema, this retention of water." And the doctor looks at him and goes, "Oh, Mrs. Smith, we need to run some tests on you. We run some tests on you, we'll be able to tell you what's going on." So he runs the test on Mrs. Smith. While Mrs. Smith is sitting in the room twiddling her thumbs, he checks on her insurance, make sure that her insurance is up to par. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter whether it's up to par or not. He's going to put her on the dialysis machine. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But here, this is the scenario. He goes in and after the examination, he goes back and goes, "Mrs. Smith, one of your kidneys is 80% blocked, and the other one is about 55 or 60% blocked. Now, Mrs. Smith, in another 3 or 4 months, you will not be able to urinate." Mrs. Smith is in a dilemma. Along with that, she's been terrified. And you got to remember, the doctors took a course in terrorism while they were in school. They make Ayatollah Khomeini look like he's a Sunday school teacher, okay? And he's now terrified, Mrs. Smith. Now, he knows that you never make a right decision when you're fearful. And that's what he's dependent upon. He's dependent upon you to say, "Oh, doctor, it's in your hands. My body is in your hands." That way, he can make sure and take care of all the insurance that your company has. But it doesn't make any difference. If you don't, if you are not If you don't have the ability to pay, Uncle Sam subsidizes for every person that is on that machine. Do you know what that means to the doctor? It's like having a belt, a conveyor belt that just goes round and round and round like this, and it's one continuous check always coming in, because Uncle Sam subsidizes everybody that is on that machine. It is very lucrative to be on the dialysis machine, even though it's very ludicrous to be on there, because the dialysis machine only helps people to die faster, and it also helps them to be in absolute misery, and you can get off of that machine once you get on it. Make no mistake about it. But the doctor has Mrs. Smith in his clutches. Mrs. Smith is terrified. Let me tell you what Mrs. Smith's story is. Mrs. Smith is on 3 different drugs. Okay? Maybe she's on 9 different drugs. But we know she's on some drug. Why? Because the edema, the water retention, is the body holding water in self-defense. And especially in the feet, because the feet is the extremities of the body. That means it's the farthest point from the heart. So getting oxygen and blood out there is difficult at best. When drugs enter the body, very seldom do they ever go to the place that they're intended for. So what they do is they fall toward gravity. And when it gets down in the feet, it doesn't have any, the bloodstream has no strength to bring it back up and filter it. So it leaves it in the feet. The only way the body can defend itself against that poison down there in the feet is send water out to dilute the poison. That's the reason for the water being there, and they call it edema. The body does that if you injure a knee. That's the same thing that happens. The water shows up so that you don't further injure the knee. When the water is no longer needed, it will disappear without fanfare, just like it came. Then let me tell you what the rest of this story is. When they get Mrs. Smith lined up for that dialysis machine, and it's always going to be 3 days a week. 3 days a week. No matter what shape your kidneys are in, everybody goes on it 3 days a week. Why? Because they have to justify the machine. They're not justifying the person. They're not justifying the patient. They're justifying the machine. You put that person on there 3 times a week, and you make sure that the machine is always running. As long as the machine is running, they are making money. That's the reason why they get so angry at a person who doesn't show up. You don't show up for your appointment, they are quite angry with you. Why? Because the machine went down and they didn't make no money in that hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, or whatever it is. They get very angry, very perturbed at you, telling you that you must make your appointments, and that if you don't, you are threatening your life. Well, let me tell you something. When you didn't make that appointment, you extended your life probably by 10 days. And that's really the truth of the matter. Listen, nobody's going to tell you this. I mean, everybody's scared to tell you this. I'm just not, maybe I'm just too stupid to be afraid. But I'm not afraid. And so the bottom line is it comes to you and what you're going to do about it. Meanwhile, Mrs. Smith has now been given the shunt. They take this plastic tube and they put it somewhere. Mind you, it doesn't go nowhere near your kidneys. It goes in usually in your arm, in a place where they can make sure and punch a hole in you all the time, especially if you don't have good veins. I mean, they will break down those veins until there's nothing left. When they're gone, then they'll put a shunt in you, what they call a shunt. And it's a rubber hose that they